it really feels like something has changed a little bit. The older companies, I mean, it's honestly, I barely pay attention to them anymore, quite frankly. That stuff is like not really where the action is at this point.
Holy dude. He's spitting a bit. Path of Exile 2 has a new dev interview from Destin. We're gonna take a look at it. He reached down and asked me to look at it. So let's see it for 0.4.
Jonathan, it's great to see you again for Path of Exile 2, last of the Druids reveal. And to share this with my audience, how have you been?
Me personally, or
yeah, you. How you? You're here talking to you.
Yeah. So honestly, like it's been going very well. Like probably for me, one of the great things is that we're really showing people how we're able to get the company to be able to work on 2 games at the same time and kind of make sure we're hitting those releases and everything. So so long as we're actually able to get like just make cool things, I'm really happy. And so it's really good to see that we're finally able to do that.
What's the most exciting aspect of this update that you're really excited to talk about and reveal today?
Well, for me, I would say it's honestly the Fate of the Val League, and I guess I'm really personally invested in this one because I took the kind of unusual step of writing the code for it myself, which I don't usually do these days. It's like something that's kind of pretty unusual, but I really enjoy those kinds of leagues that have like some kind of interesting simulation of something going on. So the build your dungeon mechanic and like all that stuff. I had a blast making that, so I'm really hoping that players will enjoy playing around with that too. And there's just some really cool design ideas in there, and like some of the crafting stuff in there is like pretty crazy and out there, and it's just a really fun one.
I didn't expect the whole like craft body parts thing where you can actually have like robotic arms and legs until you die that have stats associated with them. I didn't see that shit coming.
The Druid's like a big thing, and like but I've been working on that for a long time, whereas this league is something I've only been working on for a little while, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment.
Yeah, you actually showed me the Druid many years ago at Gamescom. You brought it up during the roundtable there. So we first played it a few years ago. What happened to that build since? Can you take me through your process of getting to today, besides, adding the whole wyvern?
Yeah, so basically, back when we did that presentation, we only really had the bear, and to be honest, it was really only like 3 or 4 skills for the bear kind of there. So, I mean, we had a class and it was fun what we had made, but it wasn't really like a full class with all the different things that you need. And honestly, at that point, I don't think we'd even really realized the amount of work it even takes to make a class. It was that early. So, I mean, there was a lot of stuff to do. And then even worse, we had the thing where, we added WASD that suddenly compromised like a bunch of the extra work that we had done, on this class, getting all the animation stuff done. So
WASD seems very baked into the theme of this class too. Like the dragon, I don't know if you noticed in the reveal, but the dragon's head actually turns based upon where your mouse is looking is how it works. So you're walking with WASD for the character, and then the dragon's head's kind of like on the pivot. If you turn a lot with it, obviously it turns the character too, but like that's kind of how it works. And then when you're flying and all that, you're like turning the head to like spray the fire. So the concept of like WASD plus using the mouse in tandem to actually move the character is pretty baked into a lot of the skills in and of themselves.
That was just a huge amount of work, and not only that, but we had situations where like there were huge amounts of arguments in the team about how a wolf should be. Like that was that was a huge point of contention. And, so that was like I was kind of like I really don't want it to be a man in a wolf suit. I really wanted to make sure that it was, like actually like you'd run around on 4 legs and that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, there was problems with, okay, but then if you're going to do that, then like, what can you do? Just like bite things? I mean, what are we doing here? Like there was that kind of stuff.
When I was down there looking at the Druid, they were running into this issue too. He was explaining this to me in person. He's like, what do we do? Like, how many times can we have a wolf bite something before it's the same move? And I'm like, you know what? You got a point there. And also the animation was kind of janky. This is why I was kind of laughing when they said in that one interview, like the reason Druid's not out is it's an animation hell. Because the arms were weird. It was like he would walk on all 4s like this, kind of like he does when he's sprinting. But the arms were like even bigger, and they had like these big elbows. So it just kind of looked like a guy doing this. And I'm like, I don't know about that one, Jonathan. You don't know how I feel about that.
Like there was just sort of fulfilling the fantasy of that, and like so we had to find ways to compromise around that and like make the walking feel good. And then there was the wyvern, which once again WASD problems where now that we've got that, it has to be that when you use a spell or a ranged attack, you expect to be able to move while you're doing it. If you're if you're a wyvern and you're like walking around on your wings, you can't just like slide around on the ground. So, we had problems of like, how do we solve that problem? And it's crazy some of the stuff we went through. Like at one point we had the neck like turning around, and then you have this like flip animation when you went around a certain 90-degree corner and that kind of stuff. It was seriously crazy the amount of iteration we had to go through. So like just getting there was just a whole thing. And then of course, like there's just everything else you need to make a class, the ascendancies and the support gems and the uniques and like all that stuff, right? So it's a surprisingly large amount of work, but I think the Druid really was one of the harder ones we've ever done.
Druid is looking great. It looks a lot of fun. You sort of addressed it in the presentation, but I did see Darth's recent video. I like Darth microtransaction a lot. I watch a lot of
Wow!
his content, pop in his
What a guy! What a man!
stream. He was highlighting that there could be a better boss reward grind. How are you revitalizing the PoE2 boss grind for uniques or just interesting gear drops from the more challenging encounters? And is that from community feedback?
Like there's still a lot more work we can do to like make I guess the core drop pool that you get from fighting bosses and so on to like to be really good. There's definitely some concerns at the moment that that this specific content has all the best stuff, and then like there's not enough stuff just for like killing your random workaday boss. So that's like something that we are concerned about. And one of the things that we're doing here is we've actually buffing a lot of uniques, like that kind of thing, like to make sure that those are actually more exciting to find. We're like doing things like with like lineage supports to like do some of that as well.
I did notice that there was a substantial amount in terms of quantity of buffs of uniques across the board. And one of the things they did was almost all of like a lot of them. Okay, I won't say all of them because there's like hundreds. A lot of the uniques got a good bump up of just things like armor, evasion, energy shield, like just the defensive amount. Because like a problem with a lot of the uniques is like even if they have stats, maybe you like the base stats alone just blow. And so you end up not wanting to use it anyway. Because like I'm not going to use something with like 80 armor. Like this is just dog. Like I can't use this. So it looks like they brought up at least the base value of a lot of these stats. So even if the other stats aren't like super great, like maybe you get like 23 fire res and some random stats you kind of don't care about, maybe you get it in a position where you can actually just use the base stats at least as well. So that was definitely at least one of the things that was needed on uniques. The part Destin's referencing where I was talking about the boss grind, I very specifically am mentioning a lot of the uniques from bosses don't feel good. Some of these actually did get addressed. So like Moira Invictus is the one that really comes to mind, which is the Arbiter chestplate, drops with 4 sockets with like there's a few different variants of it you can get where it has like random things that happen based upon how many things you have socketed into it. And that version used to be quite good. It turned into something that is not quite good. It's from Arbiter, so you think it would be quite good. So they did actually address that a bit by adding more resistances, more stats, more flat life. Like it has a lot more stats in it. I haven't actually ran the numbers on things like the flat life, flat mana, and know how much I think that actually matters, but it's definitely been increased to a point where like at least the resistances and spirit, etc., would be some pretty good additions. Also, Trial Shield's a great shout out because it originally used to be 333% of effect of the cores. That got brought down to 100, but then brought back up to 333%, which is a great addition because that was one of the Trial Master's drops, and the Trial Master really doesn't have very good drops, outside of, like with all of them jewels, etc. So that was another good addition to bring that back. 666% before true. But it was a good addition to bring it back to where at least it has a percentage of what it used to be. One other thing is if that gets double corrupted, now you can have even more sockets. So that in and of itself allows it to have the opportunity to have more cores. They did kind of like nerf the whole thing of being able to have multiple of the same, type of like OP one of the cores. I think they actually adjusted the course. Maybe it was just talismans and runes. I have to read like every single bit of the patch notes. They're quite large, but I know they nerfed some of that, so that could have had an effect too. But either way, that's another example of a unique item that went from like a good item that a lot of people are using to a really dog shit item, and hopefully brought back into the fold of the usable.
We're just kind of just trying to make sure that like the rewards that we do have are better. I think one of the things that we do get compared to all the time is like Path of Exile 1, which has like 10 years of content and is like a very hard like thing to sort of, it's hard to get to the point where there's enough rewards like how that game has, right? That ultimately is like the game we should be compared to. So we sort of have to reach the point where there's enough content and enough interesting things going on with the drops,
Yeah.
that people sort of feel happy about that. And so yeah, we are trying to address that here. But I did think honestly there's an element of just we need to get enough content into the game that there's enough cool things to find that you can actually feel like, okay, I'm going for this particular thing that's undervalued in the market right now, and that kind of stuff, in order to really get that feeling of of like chase rewards to find.
The next one's sort of an important one, so please be honest. Who coined the term bear apocalypse? Just out of curiosity.
That was me. I
Bear
believe I was that
apocalypse.
one who wrote that one. The skill was called that in development, by the way. People always pick funny placeholder names. In fact, like a lot of that stuff, the data miners will still find it in the game files when they look around. So, that's always a fun one for those silly names.
Nice. So I was sort of looking at the Steam numbers, and I noticed it's really interesting. Path of Exile seems to have smaller peaks but longer valleys on SteamDB. Path of Exile 2 has bigger peaks, but the valleys got a bit lower on the player count front. Do you think there's something missing on the retention end?
It's just in game. It's just in game, man. Like PoE2 has larger peaks because it's much more accessible to the players, better fidelity. People are going to find it to be something more appealing immediately. But once you've played for 100 hours in PoE2, it doesn't grab you as much as PoE1 100 hours because of what he said prior about just not having enough content in the game yet. I am curious to see how much it gets affected by this league mechanic, because this one looks much more involved. But yeah, it's new, it's better looking. I mean, it's going to drag in more eyeballs. You know what I mean?
Updated PoE2 right now that'll get ironed out as you head towards launch?
I
Better on
definitely think that
console,
that's
too.
something that will improve. And I think that really what it comes down to, once again, is just the fact that PoE1's got so much depth of content. Like the amount of stuff that
Yeah.
you can do in a given season is just
Yep.
so incredibly huge. There is, put it this way, I mean, there's content there that like players may not even play for multiple leagues at a time, and then when they come back to it, like it's been so long that they're like, refreshed and sort of playing again. Like there's that kind of stuff, because there's just such a huge amount of content. I mean, I don't even know what the count of the number of leagues we released in that game is at this point. It's like more than 40. It's probably like maybe approaching 50 by this point. So yeah, there's just like a huge amount of stuff going on there, and ultimately, it's just about making sure that we get in that end game to the point where people are enjoying it more. So we actually did have a huge plan for new content for Endgame that we were planning on getting in 040.
Oh, this would be interesting because, yeah, they mentioned that 040 was supposed to be like the in-game rework. This is part of the reason we're seeing, some feedback related to people being disappointed by the reviews, because they basically announced this is not the in-game rework. There's some changes and some additions, but nothing of large-scale variety. So, I am curious what he's going to say
but it
about
just sort
that.
of ended up being that the scope was a little bit too large. We couldn't quite do it. So some of that content instead is going to be coming in 050. And I think that can address some of those issues as well. Like one of the common things we hear is basically like there aren't like enough goals in the end game. Like you sort of feel like once you get into the end game, you just lose a little bit of direction. So that's sort of something that we want to make sure that we're improving. So we decided to do sort of like some system improvements, like making sure that the fun of the end game is improved in that way. But some of what the end game is lacking is just straight up content, and obviously that takes time to produce.
Yeah.
It is. I can assure you that it is in progress. There is stuff coming, but yeah, there's just next league I think will be when we manage to get a lot more of that stuff coming out.
I definitely didn't mean it as a negative. Like the player numbers seem really, really solid. It was just sort of an interesting comparative figure that I thought I would ask you about.
But it is definitely something that I'm concerned about, right? Because like I would say that when players, I mean, look, so every time we have a release, we're like, okay, what are the players unhappy about, right? Like, what are the things that we need to be addressing? So, the in-game stuff is one of the ones that we had big in our list that we wanted to improve. So that's why we started. I mean, even in 030, we decided to make a patch to address some of the problems even early, because we saw it as a big enough of an issue that we wanted to even fix that mid-league. So that's why 031 happened as well.
Yeah, whenever we chat, I try not to ask you like the same questions over and over again, but I thought there would be a few points that I could revisit. I actually watched some of our old interviews to prepare for today. One of the things you highlighted was about PoE 1 players versus PoE 2 players and the differences there. Do you feel like PoE1 player satisfaction has gone up in PoE2, and how are PoE2 players feeling about the game? You highlighted that PoE1 players felt like 2 was hard, and 2 players felt like 2 was easier. How's that going?
It's kind of a hard question because, like, players aren't really a monolith, so almost no matter what answer he gives here, there's going to be people that say he's wrong. Because, not all PoE1 players aren't all exactly the same. So this is a like borderline impossible question, but it basically what he's asking is, do you think that you are moving more in the direction of a game that PoE1 players typically enjoy? Like, I mean, that's kind of like what he's getting at here.
So I definitely think that PoE1 players are liking PoE2 more than what they did before. But I think the other thing that's really helped is that, PoE1 is actually getting content again with the proper release schedule and everything like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like if you're the kind of person who just doesn't like PoE2 for whatever reason, and you like PoE1 better, it's like now since that game's getting updates, you're not feeling, unhappy and disappointed, right? So that actually changes the whole vibe of the community pretty significantly. So like we actually realized at some point, it's like one of the best things we can do for PoE2 right now is actually make PoE1 better, because it's kind of like serving the people who are unhappy about that. So
I mean, look, if you have a big brother who is angry because it feels like the little brother is getting, is getting the attention, and the little brother is suffering because the big brother is mad at him for that. If you give attention to the big brother, the little brother is going to stop getting picked on. That's kind of what he's saying.
that's definitely something that's really helped. And I mean, really, like it's not like we ever intended that we wouldn't be getting content regularly for PoE1. It's just that it sort of ended up being with the getting the company to a place where it could do that was hard. So now we're in a much better position to be able to do that. And so we had a PoE1 release what feels like seconds ago.
Yeah.
It was like I think it might be like only even a month, and maybe a month and a week or something. And so yeah, being able to deliver this update and that update within such a short time period, it's definitely required quite a lot of difference, just engineering of the company, right? Like getting it to the point where we've got all the people we need. So and it's kind of cool as well because as the company gets bigger, we get to do more. Like you might have noticed that the stuff we're doing with our trailers now is like way more advanced than what we've been doing. That kind of stuff. Like we're getting more people to be able to do that kind of.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like they have full on cinematics and shit. Like that Druid cinematic was pretty good, actually. Like they're, let's be honest, not quite Blizzard quality, trailers here, but like they're getting significantly better with them. It's not just gameplay hype anymore. Like they're actually putting work into like the trailers themselves.
Stuff too. So it's been quite cool to see that kind of growth as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, but I think I did last time, so I don't want to be redundant. You talked a lot about performance this time. One of the top search terms is PoE2 Steam Deck. Have you worked on that specific device in addition to your current improvements? And then are you forward thinking about the Steam machine?
Holy shit, I forgot about Steam Deck.
So I mean, we haven't targeted that machine specifically, but all the performance improvements we're doing will work very much in favor of that machine as well. Like it is a pretty marked difference, like the improvements to performance. And this is one of those things where you got to be really careful about promising things because you're always going to get someone who's got, for whatever reason, their PC is like doing worse now than it was before, and then like they end up being slower or something like that. So you didn't fix it at all, but like I really can say that like the improvement is pretty damn marked. We did a lot of work here. So I think it's going to especially be beneficial for console players as well, because in that case, that we can be much more certain about our performance promises because hardware's all exactly identical. Yeah, like it is way better there, especially at endgame when you had lots of performance problems. So yeah, it honestly might be getting towards double FPS in some cases. Like it really is like pretty big deal.
Double FPS. You heard it here first.
Yeah, well, as I said, I don't want to make promises
Double
like that.
that.
So we went with a conservative 25% in the live stream for that reason. But yeah, like I mean, I'm seeing numbers like that though. Yeah, it's way better.
5,000 frames per second confirmed with your Steam Deck. You will be able to run this 4K with 2,000 frames in VR, no problem, on your Game Boy.
I hope you're correct. Speaking of just, Path of Exile and how you really try and innovate, in the past we had talked about lack of innovation in the market. That was a while ago. Do you feel like a lot of the larger companies are getting better about this or even more risk averse? And are they creating a space for studios like your own to really shine?
So it's pretty interesting what's
It's
been
a good
going on in
question.
the industry in the last year, especially where it feels like all the biggest things are indie hits. Like, honestly, it really feels like something has changed a little bit here, with that. I
It's a
sort of
good
wonder whether
question.
what we'll see eventually is some kind of cycle where the studios, the kind of like, there'll be another thing where like the indie hits kind of like end up growing again and becoming the new AAA, as it were, or you kind of have a cycle again of like teams growing in. But right now, it feels like we're right in the point where you get some really polished indie experiences are kind of ending up being some of the largest things. So, I mean, like the older companies. I mean, it's honestly I barely pay attention to them anymore, quite frankly. Like that stuff is like not really where the action is at this point. Normally, I
Dude,
feel like
that's
people
so bait. I barely pay attention to the AAA companies anymore. That is holy dude. He's spitting a bit.
are overly mean to AAA game developers, but yeah, it really is kind of a bit of a marked change this year for sure.
Yeah, like I'm playing of Ash and Steel. It's a smaller studio game, and it's just like, oh wow, this is so refreshing. And Out of Action is this indie game. It's a first person shooter that's trying something new, and that's been really refreshing for me. Another thing about the market, just generally speaking, we talked about Chris last time, and he's sort of doing his YouTube thing now. He did a video about dark patterns. It wasn't something that I
Yes.
was really familiar with. It was really insightful. You've also talked with me about avoiding negative cycles in the past. How do you
Mhm.
and the team avoid dark patterns being icky feelings for the player?
I think it really just comes down to we've always, and like this has been from the very beginning of our company, have always just been really against those kinds of things. Like, maybe there's this kind of like, there's a sort of hacker ethos that I think that both Chris and I kind of came from younger, like when we were younger in our lives, that kind of was very kind of like anti-establishment in this, like,
2600 hours, all the hits, yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
I just have a
we
stroke.
just kind of had that sort of feeling about things, and so yeah, our kind of whole philosophy I think was kind of shaped from that a lot, and so that's whenever we're looking at doing things. I mean, we're very careful with our microtransactions and this kind of stuff as well. Like whenever we're looking at the stuff to make sure that we don't like go across the line of like, yeah, just that weird icky feeling as you said. But I mean, it just comes down to I think just being a gamer and being in that community and understanding like if you're part of it, it's like you immediately tell like how would I react if I saw a game announce this, right? And that's what you need to be thinking as you're as you're doing these things. And honestly, like with Settlers of Calgary, so this is a funny one. So that one is a league that had some real time mechanics, and I was like super uneasy about that. I was like, I'm actually really worried that we're crossing a line here into like mobile game style territory, and I was really worried about it. And it kind of worked out. And I think the reason why is because we had enough trust built up that we weren't kind of doing it in an evil way, and we also kind of weren't doing things like where like we weren't doing the type of thing where we're like, okay, we want you to get up in the middle of the night and that kind of like crappy stuff that the games have done. So we kind
Yo, shots to fucking Blizzard, dude. We don't want you to have to get up into the night. And what aren't they releasing season 11 at like 11:30 p.m. or some shit? Holy shit, dude.
of managed to have a bit of latitude to do that. But yeah, I was even really just worried about that, and that ended up being like a really popular league in the end. But yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that I really do want to be careful to try and avoid.
In his video, he brought up somebody carrying a laptop to keep a daily streak alive. Was it you?
Yeah, wasn't me. No, I do know who that was, but I'm not gonna throw them under the bus.
What are some of the really bad examples of dark patterns that you really don't like and work to avoid?
I mean, okay, like so random example, right? In our shop, the points, they're like 1 point is 10 cents, right? We don't have any like weird like ratios and other stuff. We never do like point discounts or like larger packs of discounts and other stuff like that. Like, like we try to play it extremely, like it's like the reason why we have to have a point currency on the shop is because, you need to do at least $5, otherwise the credit card fees just become ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like outside of that, we're not interested in having a premium currency exactly. We just want you to be able to buy, like stuff in our shop. It's like selling things for like, like 99 points or like, like doing weird ratios and all that stuff. Like I just don't want to, I don't want to do it, right? So we've always been like that, and we just kind of, just a random example of one of those things, right?
Yeah, of course. And it seems like you're doing okay. So maybe they're
Sure,
not
I mean, you
you.
don't need to do that. right? I mean, it's the same as true with the like mystery box. I think we were one of the first in the industry to publish what the chances were. I think we were one of the earliest ones also to make it so that you can't get repeat items in the mystery boxes as well. Like, so like we're making sure that when we do the stuff that we're trying to be as friendly as possible for that kind of thing. And like at the end of the day, we did experiments with the stuff and we found, what, like all of those things didn't matter as much as you might think that they do. And I'm sure that, you could probably make a few more bucks if you do some of that stuff, but I don't think it's actually necessary. I think that you can actually be fair and it's okay.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting topic for me because
I mean, my take, not to cut Destin off here, but my take on this is very simple. If you make a product people like and you initially are fair with it, be like, here's a free game and you need some stash tabs. Obviously, PoE2 is in early access, so you still have to pay for it right now. But if you're fair with your pricing, people don't feel scammed. And when people don't feel scammed, they're willing to go out of their way to support you. It's actually not about how much money you spend on the game. It's about whether or not you feel that they're trying to put it in your ass while you're doing it. That's what it is. If I like the company and I like the game and I play it a lot, I don't mind spending more than $60 AAA amount of money on the game if I don't feel like they're trying to fuck me along the way. It's like the consumers aren't greedy. They just don't like getting taken advantage of again and again and again. Trust me, I play enough Gacha games to know, dude.
I think there are games that do it well and sort of strike that balance that needs to be struck when you're making a product. I think you're one of those companies, in my opinion. And I was curious, do you feel like anybody out there is kind of getting a bad rap in the industry right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
You mean like undeserved?
Yeah, like maybe it's like, maybe you're being a little bit too harsh on.
He has an opportunity to defend Last Epoch if he feels that way. He has an opportunity to say D4 bad has gone too far. It really depends on. I'm really curious if he has any he actually feels. That's a good question, actually. I like that question.
But immediately, I don't think there's any examples that jump to my mind. Like, I mean, look, I do, like, in general, I do sympathize with game companies when they do things, because, like I've been there in some cases, like I can see how it goes. And obviously everyone's trying to do their best with regard to making things that players like. So, like I do sympathize a lot of the time, but at the end of the day, like, you've got to, you do actually need to do what your customers want you to do, right? Like you can't, you have to respect them. And so, if people are getting a bad rap, I mean, on some level, they do need to just be able to weather that and deal with that and change things and do better.
Yeah, actually in my previous interview with Path 1, I believe he said something along the lines of, you can't get defensive with your community because you have to address those issues head on. What's your personal philosophy with that? Like when the community's mad, you seem to really weather those storms well. So like what?
I mean, we've seen this, dude. We've all watched the Zizaran interview. We see what happened. He can definitely feel the impact. Like he is hyper aware when things are very negative. We saw what happened.
What's your approach when, you're kind of getting nailed from all corners?
I mean, what it comes down to really is you have to appreciate the fact that, anyone who's unhappy, they're unhappy for a reason, right? Like you have to try to find their perspective. And that can be really hard sometimes, like seeing what their perspective is. But, it can be done. You can do it. And that is what led to, a lot of the improvements we made in 030, where we did the sprinting and stuff like that. And it's like, I was kind of against the idea initially, but then we worked out a way to make it okay. Like we're like, okay, so, someone's saying they want the game to be faster. Like, what is a way that we can do that in a way that they are happy and I'm happy, right? Like, can we find a way to kind of like get a common ground here? And that's really what it comes down to.
Well, that's good. Last year, I asked you about your favorite game. I think you said it was Balatro. I think that was your game.
Oh, that's a great,
probably, yeah.
Great answer.
Who do you think's going to win 2025 the Game Awards, and what have been some of your favorites this year?
Well, I mean, the people who are going to win is obviously Expedition 33. I think that's not
yeah.
Not actually my favorite game particularly, but not that I'm saying it's bad or anything. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't my favorite. Let me just, I feel like I need to look at my Steam library here and
go ahead.
Okay, for me, I have a hot take on. For me, my game of the year, if it's obviously Expedition 33, like full sweeps the Game Awards. If in a world in which Expedition 33 does not exist, I actually give Game of the Year for me the Split Fiction, which is maybe a weird one, but like Split Fiction was one of the best playthroughs I've had all year. Like the platforming was unexpectedly really enjoyable. And I normally am not, like, I kind of don't like platforms. I normally don't play platformers very much. I really like Split Fiction. It was a great duo game, and I thought it was way better than Takes Two. Some people like Takes Two better, but like Split Fiction, I thought was like very innovative and probably the best duo game to play with a partner or something from the couch in like a long time. Really, really, really good. So for me, for just out of my personal enjoyment, like Split Fiction was like actually phenomenal. And by the end of that, and we did everything, we 100% of that game. By the end of that, me and the girlfriend were like, wow, that was like maybe the best game we've ever played together. It was really, really, really enjoyable. I see a lot of you guys here saying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I actually didn't play that one, so maybe that one would have taken it for me. But I really enjoyed Split Fiction.
Refresh myself on what I've been playing. So, oh, you know what? Okay,
just a good year for games.
The game I definitely enjoyed the most this year was the Drifter. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's a 90s style adventure. It's a 90s style adventure game.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
And it was just so well done. I honestly loved it. Yeah, that's kind of that's the thing that I'm pushing at the moment in terms of like awesome games. And honestly, they probably deserve more sales because it's really excellent.
I don't understand the take. I've seen this on Twitter multiple times of people saying like, there's been no good games. Thank God for Arc Raider. There's no good games. And it's like, are you playing games or are you only playing fucking Call of Duty and anything with a gun or a ball? Like, what are we talking about? Like, if there was no good games this year, there's never been a good game. Okay, I actually don't understand that take at all.
Silk Song was probably my next favorite afterwards, I would say.
Great
I really
game.
enjoyed that. Yeah.
Great game. The new map system. So was that inspired from PoE1 or what was the new map system?
And so you're talking about the Fate of the Vile dungeon map thing.
Yeah.
So basically that we did originally want to do something that was inspired by what we did in Incursion, but I wanted to do something a bit more interesting because I never was really quite fully happy with how that one worked. And I'd played an indie game called Loop Hero. It must have been like 6 or 7 months ago. I don't know if you played it before, but it's effectively a game where the hero is automated, and what you're doing is designing and making a dungeon for them to walk around, in order to level up the hero. And I really liked the way that like the position of placing all of the elements in the dungeon really mattered in that game. So I kind of took a bit of inspiration from that, and I ended up just sort of.
Fun. You know what's funny is on my way to New Zealand, I didn't have any games that I could actually play, so I played Loop Hero on my phone for like an hour. So it's like a 13-hour flight. So for like about an hour of it, I played Loop Hero. Loop Hero was one of the only like actual mobile games I could play that didn't immediately take internet or anything like that. So like Loop Hero is actually quite good. If you haven't played Loop Hero, it's very much worth the value of it.
At home, just in my spare time, kind of writing like a programmer UI type sort of simulation for this.
It's a good interview,
like, okay, what can I make here to create something? And I actually ended up using that prototype. We took all the code from that and then actually used it for the actual game. So effectively what we've got is the actual league is that same prototype but with a proper UI on it rather than the UI that I just made with like lines and a few small things. So that was a really fun one. And honestly, I don't know if the league could have come together quite the same in any other way because I ended up modifying the design of what I was doing a lot while I was making it. It's been a very long time since I kind of like personally just like sat down and wrote code for a league before. So that was a really fun one and kind of returned to my roots a little bit because I used to do this stuff all the time a long time ago.
What do you guys code in?
C++. So we've got our own engine. We're like most of the game industry that isn't using Unity is all on C++.
Okay, cool. And I made a comment about it. You have a painting behind you. Are you a painter? Do you paint?
I'm not. No, it's not me. It's that's a guy. Sam Foley, I believe, is his name. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his. It's a really nice one. He's like a local
really nice.
It's good stuff.
Cool. I had a few jokey questions in here too that I didn't get to. When writing your scripts, I also deal with this. How hard is it to find other words for terms like foe, enemy, or destroy
Yeah. It could take a while. You know what? I'll tell you what the one thing that I find myself using AI for is a really good thesaurus, right? Like,
true.
They seem to, in the depths of the AI, there seem to be a million other these words, and so that's what I often use it for.
Yeah, that's funny. Give me 5 different ways to say the word foe. Do you ever use consultancy agencies? I know you have like the Aztecs. Do you reach out to an Aztec expert to ask them about getting the
I was gonna say no, right?
Correct? I don't even know what you would. ask about?
Not usually. What it really comes down to is making sure that our artists are just doing really good referencing and just making sure that they're paying a lot of attention to that stuff. So they do a lot of exploration and sort of like fight like do like a research into the culture. And then what they make is they make these reference boards of like here's how to do this correctly and all stuff. They sort of assemble all those kinds of things together, in order to make like a
I think when I was, if I remember correctly, when I was there talking to some of the designers, they would have like fucking Pinterest open or something on one side, and then they would just be like browsing, like looking for inspiration for stuff. But it didn't necessarily have to be like one for one. You know what I mean?
sort of a bible for how to here's how to represent this culture as we are representing it in in the game. And then once you've got that, you can kind of go from there and create like a bunch of assets. Yeah, like it's definitely a bit of a process.
Yeah, that's sort of cool. Like, do you travel to the locations and then actually experience it, or is it more just online research? What's the process like?
I mean, we haven't really done that. It is a lot of online research mostly. I mean, there have been cases where we've done like some different things than that, but most of the time, yeah, it's just a lot of online research and just sort of making sure. Now, I mean, this isn't really my thing, obviously. Like, I'm not the lead artist, but I sort of that is what they do, and I sort of see them doing that stuff all the time.
When you think back to where you were at launch and where you are today, what's something that you're like really, really proud to have accomplished at this point with what is it, point four, right?
I think that like what we've done, what we've managed to do really well now is we've managed to get like a really good feel for like combat and like through the campaign and that kind of stuff. I'm really happy with where that is. I really like the way that the item system and crafting is coming together. Like, sure, we could use a few more rewards and stuff, but the overall system I'm really, really enjoying. And just like the feeling of comboing things and all that stuff, I'm just really, really happy with that. So it's like I don't think there's like too many weaknesses we still have left, and I kind of do have a plan for how to address them. So like I'm pretty sure things are coming together, and we're going to be now soon at a point where I'm like, okay, like we're actually pretty damn locked in as far as like making a good action RPG is concerned.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that you were adjusting the currency in endgame because that was one of my big criticisms for like
Mhm.
0.0 or whatever, because you just spend everything and if you run out of the maps basically or whatever they're called, you can't really proceed anymore. So thank you. I guess that
Yeah.
was more than anything.
Yeah.
Was that from player feedback or was it from your own experience or maybe a little of both?
It's a mix of both. I mean, like I sort of say this pretty frequently, but ultimately, what it comes down to is, yeah, like we hear the players what they say, we play ourselves, we try to see, like, try to understand, like, okay, am I experiencing the same problem that they're experiencing, and then be like, okay, now we can make some kind of change. But you do need both of those elements. Like, what I don't want to do is just knee jerk react to something. Like a player says this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change it then. Like it needs to
Yeah,
be that I actually experience the problem for myself to
yeah.
fully understand it. That's kind of a key element of that.
And the dragon, it's like you've referenced Game of Thrones, right? At least a little bit.
I mean,
To be honest, it looked more like Reign of Dragons. You guys know the movie Reign of Dragons, where they have like the wyvern style dragon. Like that's the type of dragon it looked like more than me.
believe that the Game of Thrones dragons were also wyverns technically. So like they're just the cooler form of worm. Which is the overall classification here. But yeah, I mean, look, that sort of classic like
Oh
breathing
yeah,
dragon
Reign of
fire posing,
Fire.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Reign of
pretty
Fire.
cool,
Yeah,
right? Like, you gotta use those references.
Reign of Fire.
Are you going to roll Druid for the new season, or do you think is there another class you're eyeing?
No, definitely Druid right now. I mean, that's what I've been playing for a while now. But actually, there's like a lot of different ways to play it, and it's a little bit
Yo, unfair, Jonathan. You got the advantage on all of us. He got to play Druid before all of us, dude.
it's actually a bit unusual as far as the classes go because we had to kind of think of it in like, okay, there are sort of four archetypes that you might want to play, even independent of being able to pick things across them, right? Like you have to be able to deal with someone who wants to play only spells, or someone who wants to play only wolf, someone who wants to play only bear, or only dragon, but also you want to make sure that there's
Only
reasons to combine
bears.
all of them as well. So it's kind of ended up there's a lot more sort of cross pollination between the different elements of the skill set here than what we've done before. And I actually think I kind of want to use some of those ideas and try to bring them back into the other classes as well a bit because that exercise of sort of thinking about things in terms of those different individual archetypes kind of resulted in quite a lot more interesting design. So yeah, like that's been, but it does mean that playtesting has just been like, well, once if you're doing a whole bear playthrough, it's like, okay, well now that's completely like got nothing to do with if you do a full wolf playthrough. So there's a lot sort of harder to kind of you have to do more playtesting to make the same
Yeah.
amount of stuff work.
How is that going to go? Like when I roll Druid in my playthrough, are you going to just naturally have drops? They're like, hey, maybe you should try out the wolf build, but that's usually through like Act 1, right? By the end of Act 1, you'll
Yeah.
probably be locked in.
So basically, I mean, look, you can just use combine multiple forms together. I do imagine a lot of people will probably want to stick to one. Effectively, what we do is at the beginning, we say, okay, like we're going to give you immediately a wolf and a bear skill, so to start you
Okay.
off. And then the next tier down, that's when you start to get the wyvern stuff coming in.
Okay.
So I
So
suspect a
yeah,
lot of
tier
players will
three.
probably just like pick one at the start, just go with it. If the more adventurous players out there, you've also got the wyvern to sort of go with. But yeah, like all through, there's kind of like interesting opportunities to be able to move between them. And one of the things we're trying to do as well is that all of them generate some kind of resource or mechanic that the other ones can use in different ways. Like we'll put those hooks in there. So like one of the ones we had in the video, for example, was that so rage is a thing that the bear can easily generate. Like if you're using, but the other two classes also have things that consume rage, without a natural way to generate it, right? So it's like you don't have to do that, but it's just a thing that if you're looking to do some kind of like bear hybrid with wyvern, then you can do that, right? Like the more rage you have, the longer you can do the flame breath. So that's like a thing you could do if you want to sort of specialize in doing that. But yeah, like it's like we try to have those cross pollinations from all different directions.
What do you think you're gonna roll for the druid?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, the most recent playthrough I was doing Wyvern, so I probably might want to go Wolf for the next one after that. So probably on release I'll do that. I think that when I last played Wolf, we didn't quite have a couple of those changes to the way that the pounce and cross slash stuff works. So I think I might want to roll that one next.
Well, I suppose I'll ask one more because I think I got one more minute. The time mechanic on the ascendancy, how does that work on the back end? Maybe that's a weird question. It seems like you like know where the enemy AI is gonna go, and then
You're talking about
yeah.
the one where it like it does a skill
Oh
from the.
yeah, the what do they call this? That's like the seer, the oracle. It's oracle, right? It's a weird one. That one is weird. It like duplicates the boss, or it knows like what the boss is gonna do if it's about to get stunned or something. That one's interesting because it kind of gives you double damage on the boss. You create a clone of them, and then if your AOE moves, you can like double hit them. That's actually a pretty cool one.
Future kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So really, I mean, really, what that is just like So are you talking about the one where you that you use against bosses, or the one where it does the thing for you?
You did it against the boss in the
Okay, so that one, yeah. So that one, basically, what we do is like when you use it, it effectively does the heavy stun, as if they got heavy stunned from their current position, and then both of those entities now exist, but you haven't heavy stunned one of them. So then what usually happens after that is because you keep attacking them, it immediately heavy stuns the boss as well, and that causes the boss to usually do basically the same thing that just happened to the vision of it that got heavy stunned before. So it kind of just ends up being that like you get the feeling of like you got a future got ripped out and then it immediately happened after. So it's kind of just a bit of a psychological trick there, I guess.
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that one was a bit of a trip. I'm like, wait, how does that work? So that seems really fun. What's a cosmetic that you and the team worked really hard on and thought was really cool, but no one bought or very few people bought?
Ooh, that's a good
I
question.
actually don't think I've got a good answer for this one. I probably didn't pay enough attention to it to really be able to say that. The It actually is. I'm not usually the one doing most of that cosmetic stuff, so yeah, probably I'm not the right person to answer that question.
Well, I just thought it would be a fun one to ask.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know how much time we have left, but I kind of got through my questions a little faster than I thought. Was there anything that I didn't ask you about that you really were excited to discuss today?
No, I mean, look, the main things are we got the Druid. That's obviously been a huge deal. Community's been really excited for it. We've got the Fate of the Val. It's my favorite league to develop for a very long time. So I'm really enjoying that one. And obviously a bunch of other more minor things that really should be safe for the patch notes. But yeah, that's the sort of the core of it. And yeah, I'm really happy with what we delivered for this release.
And you can't give me any hints about final release date.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
it isn't
He's
this
trying.
year.
Yeah, in the Q&A, he said he really wants it to be in 26, but they're not sure, which means it could be 27. I have a sneaking suspicion if they really want it to be in 26, maybe it ends up being like December for the 2-year anniversary next year.
But
Would be
look,
like
put it this way.
earliest then,
I
basically.
would be incredibly disappointed if we didn't have it out sometime next year. Let's just say that. That's definitely like if the release year ended in a 7, I would be quite unhappy. So yeah, I'm doing my best to try and get it out next year. But like when it comes down to it, what we need to do is we need to get the end game in a good place. We need to get the balance in a good place. We need to get the performance in a good place. Like it's just basically, and then of course we need to finish the campaign, right? Like these are the things we need to do to get the game out. And so
I mean, my hot take is like, I don't. Does it matter if it's called full release yet? I guess I guess the difference is it's free and more people get access to it. They keep doing free weekends. You get extra keys when you buy it. You can hand it out. I actually just don't care really. And you get the amount of currency that you would need. I mean, you get $30 of currency if you buy it literally anyway. So if you spend the $30 and getting access to the game, you're probably gonna buy stash tabs if you're gonna play this whole time anyway. So like, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, you can play it now. We have an unfinished campaign. Yeah, but like my point is like, okay, if they released it now and call it 1.0, it doesn't actually do anything. When they're asking about when is full release, the only thing you're going to have, I mean, for full release, they already said they don't have to have all the classes and everything in it. So, I mean, they could call it full release if you want, but it's not actually it's not actually changing anything. It's just it's going to be a title change. Unless by full release, what we're actually asking is when is the campaign going to be done? When are we getting all of the classes? When are we getting all the swords, etc.? That's all there really is. We know basically the cadence of release they're going to be doing now. It takes them, at least 4 months to do a class, more like 8 months to do a class.
I don't want to commit to when the date is until we're like pretty damn certain that all of that stuff is good. And at that point, we're ready to say, hey, everyone, the game's done, play it. You're going to have a great time. Like people, no one's left. Like there are no big groups of things that people can say are bad left,
Yeah, totally makes sense that you want to wait till everything's lined up, all your ducks are in a row, so to speak. Well, I'm super excited to try out the Druid. I can't wait for this expansion. I'm waiting to play this class since we met and did that first gameplay walkthrough many years ago. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always, and I also can't wait to see how the community reacts to all the new content.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thanks.
Yo, Destin, great interview, and I am not at all biased by the fact that you did a shout out to a little known streamer called Darth Microtransaction. But outside of that, absolutely fantastic interview by our boy Destin. You had a couple good questions in there. The whole I don't even pay attention to AAA anymore was Giga based. It was good. That's good. Yeah, not at all biased.